Hello, I wanted to share another line that I've enjoyed playing, and this is the Miles defense and the King's Gambit, something kind of unusual that I don't see a lot of people playing. And if you look in the games database, there is not a huge number of people playing it currently. But here's how it goes. This is the main line. So after e4, e5, and f4, the King's Gambit, uh, black declines with knight c6, excuse me, and white plays knight f3, standard move. Uh, Bishop c4 is also possible, but I think more rare in this variation. And then f5 is the Miles defense, and it's kind of a counter gambit or sharp line black can play against the King's Gambit. The best move here for white is to take e takes f5, not to play f takes e5. That's a mistake, and knight takes e5 is also a mistake. But this is the main line, and after e takes f5, black should play e4 to force that knight to move, or force queen e2. But normally white will play knight e5 or knight g5. There's not a huge difference between the two. But many times they do play knight g5 because they don't want the knights to be traded, although black probably has no intention of doing that early on. And then black should play knight f6. And I've marked some moves here which ones are okay and which ones are not okay. Bishop c4 is not okay or not great, but these other moves, g4, d3, knight c3, are good. In case you're wondering why is knight takes e5 a blunder, after knight takes e5, black can recapture knight takes e5, and after white gets his piece back, there's this check. And there's two ways really white can respond. If g3, then queen takes e4 check, and white's simply going to be down a rook from here. The game can continue, but white has to deal with the material loss, losing castling rights on the king side, and maybe white still has chances with good play, still has a bishop pair on an open board, might be quicker to develop than black from here, but it's going to be tough, and black has a better exchange potential to just exchange pieces down and be up a rook. Alternatively, if white plays king e2 to get out of the check, then there's this line: queen still takes e4 check, and I've had many games go down this way. King f2, bishop c5 check, king g3, f4 check, king h3, d5 with check. The king's starting to lose places to go. h4, king h4, f3 check, king g3, and queen g4 is mate. And there's a few other moves white can make there, but basically the game is basically over. It's just a matter of black finding the mate. in the main line, after knight e5 and knight f6, if white does play bishop c4, which I think is a mistake, black simply has d5, and it's very common. I've run across this many times, where white plays bishop c4 and d5 comes out, and then white has to move the bishop again. But it's I'd say black has a good advantage here. If white plays bishop b3, then the bishop is sort of pacified for now, and I think black can get away with just playing bishop c5 after that, and it stops castling, and white's king is slightly open to attack. Black's has superior development, and I think it should be a good game for black from there. If bishop goes to b5, attacking this knight twice, which is likely to happen because the white player would see, oh, I can force some moves here and attack this knight and threaten to win a piece or win a rook or a pawn. White can ignore that, or black can ignore that and actually just take the f5 pawn. Bishop takes f5, because after knight takes c6, bx c6, bishop takes c6, and bishop d7, white has to realize there's trouble if he does take the rook, because black has these pieces active. The knight can easily come out, the bishop can come out to somewhere, and the queen will be out shortly, and white will have no other pieces developed. These pieces are all asleep back here. So if white is greedy and takes the rook, then bishop g4 is going to win the queen. White can throw in this check, king e7, but he has to realize his queen's gone, and he does have a rook and a bishop for it, but black can pretty easily gain a good advantage here. Queen b8, threatening queen b6 check, so white should take, probably will take there, but even that is not great because black still plays bishop or queen b6 check, and the king goes here, this check, and pretty much white should take that knight, and it's going to be a good game for black. There's a quiet line white can play after f5. If sometimes you see white play d3, and this will just be an equal game, and it's kind of funny. Why would white play this? Why play the king's gambit to begin with if you want a quiet, semi-closed board? So it happens now and then, but it's not very common. But d3, and then black can also play d3, f6, castle, bishop e7, knight c3. Pretty normal development in castle, and from here I think it's completely an equal game. There's some sharp lines white can try. In the main line, after knight e5, knight e6, bishop e2, and usually the players who play this are the higher rated players that I've come across. They go for bishop e2, realizing that they can throw in this check, and the bishop should not, black can't really take that bishop after the check. It'll lead to a lot of trouble. So black should just play bishop c5 and just develop a piece and take this diagonal, because after this the king's going to have to move over anyways. If black took this bishop, it would be a lot of black would be in a lot of trouble. After this, where does the king go? Has to play g3, and this should be familiar to you. You know, it's white has a huge advantage here. White is going to win pretty shortly. So if he goes for this, now from here white should probably just continue developing, somehow get king safety somehow, and not go for this line of knight f7. If he does, black is okay. You know, he can be greedy and take that. White's going to lose 2 pieces for the rook eventually. But the game can go down this way too if he's very stubborn. Castle, d5, g4, d4, g5, knight h5, g6, knight f6, f7. Yeah, bishop coming out, taking the pawn, d3, opening up the dark squared bishop, but black can simply close that off with e3. Knight e5, evacuating the knight, but black can take it, and then there's that check after that exchange. You know, white can grab more material, but there's another check, and white is in a lot of trouble, all from just being kind of greedy. There's another sharp line I get a lot, especially against higher rated players. Going into the main line, 95, 96. If they play bishop c4, and you can kick it with d5, and if they go here, again we saw how this is advantageous for black. But then you'll see this sometimes g4, because they want to control this area of the board, and they don't want you to take the pawn. But black can castle, and if they play g5, threatening the knight, realizing this knight has not really good squares to go to. The queen is controlling these squares. If the knight went back, that would be pretty bad. This pawn would hang. That would come with check, and white would gain some initiative there. So actually black doesn't have to move the knight. Black can continue playing and give up that knight, and it's similar to playing as white in the King's Gambit, the Muzio or double Muzio, where you simply allow the knight to be captured by a pawn, and white can just take that pawn on f5. And if white is greedy and takes the knight, then he can get into a lot of trouble. Queen takes f6, bishop takes d5 with check, king h8, queen h5, the knight is taken, f takes e5, queen back, bishop takes b7, just consistently grabbing more material, bishop g6 to kick the queen away, queen g4, and then there's this check, bishop f2, and of course, actually here, black could just take on e5, and white should probably figure out something else than taking that rook. If they take the rook, then there's just bishop h5, picking up the queen. And all of these pieces are just asleep, not doing anything. And white takes bishop. You know, this is mate. So alternatively, instead of castle on g4, what I've done a few times is I've just played queen e7, and the game went down like this. This has happened several times. g5, bishop takes, they grab the knight, I retake with the queen, and then maybe white realizes they're in trouble and they want to activate their queen. So queen h5, after g6, white almost has to play queen h6, because if not, then if queen e2, then there's this knight takes e5, f takes e5, queen h4 check, and the game is pretty much over now. These two bishops are going to control too much along with this queen, and white doesn't have enough pieces out to stop the attack. Obviously, if king d1, then bishop g4 will pin the queen and win it. So if king f1, bishop h3 check, the only move is queen g2, and then queen f2 will be checkmate, since this queen is pinned to the king, cannot capture. So that's a fun way. And then I threw in one sample game here, played a little while back against a pretty high-rated opponent, and he actually played very well and had a huge advantage for a lot of the game until the very end. But this is how it went. It went into the main line and g4 early. It's a good move, I think. And thought, okay, I'm going to develop to g5. You know, this knight doesn't have good places to go against, so I just let him have it. d5, take here, queen takes f6, and queen h5 is necessary to prevent this move, queen h4 check. So king up, knight c3 developing, I have to protect that, bishop h3 developing, knight d4 just threatening knight c2, king d1 stopping it, good, bishop takes f5, bishop takes f5, knight takes f5. And I think this was maybe a mistake at d3, because I just have e3, and now this bishop and this rook are not going to be going anywhere for a little while. It's going to take a lot of work to get them out. Knight e2, d4, solidifying my lockdown. Knight g3, rook f8, forking queen and bishop, bringing this rook into the game with threats. So h6. Of course, I missed that. Yeah, there's a fork there. Knight g6 check. King d7. And he threw an all-out attack at me here, which was good, and I think he was winning here. But The problem is if these pieces get traded off and I'm left with just this rook, there's still a question of how to get these two pieces out. So that's pretty much what happened. Yeah. Grab the pawn, trade queens off, and now white is in trouble because he's trying to get the pieces out, but they can't come quick enough. F2, king e1, and maybe this is the best move if I take here, though black still is winning, I think. This pawn will be loose. The king is locked down by this rook. Bishop still can't move. So played a4, trying to get the rook and the bishop out maybe this way. So I played king f4, realizing that maybe I can mate him if I get my king to f3, and here this will be mate. So he saw this, so he didn't. I think it was just, he just realized he's going to have to give up a piece to stop the mate. So bishop takes e3, king takes e3, and still nowhere for the king to go except to d1, and black picks up the other piece, and now black is winning. Hard to stop this pawn. Black still has these two pawns to hold. This rook is going to be trouble. So yeah, easily winning by black there after all of those exchanges. Anyways, try out the Miles defense. It might work out for you.